Welcome to Scrollin', episode number 90. I'm Ket. Joining me as always, Davius Starjumper. How's it going, dude?
Going good.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. And today we have a special guest. You've heard the shout-outs. You've seen his blast bones on your death recap. You may have paid him 500,000 gold for him to tell you what his build is. He's the last of the Stamcrow mains, the official build consultant of the Scrollin' podcast, and our good friend, UncleSam. Sam, how's it going, dude?
What a title. My goodness. I feel so honored. I feel like the red carpet was rolled out.
I worked on that intro for you, man. I edited it. I revised.
That's
Well, it's good to have you back. The last time you were here is right about a year ago, I think it was, and I gave you a little mini interview to kind of give people an idea of what you're all about. We're not going to do that all again, but I'm going to test my memory and see if I remember the details of what we talked about then. Okay. So you're a Necromancer main, right?
That is correct.
You started playing during the Elsewhere expansion.
2 for 2.
And number one dueler PCNA?
No, definitely. Too much.
You just missed it, kid. You just missed it.
Faulty memory. Okay, so you have some alts. You have one of every class, right?
I do.
The ones that when I think of your alts, the ones I really think of are your Sork and your Nightblade in particular. Your Sork really has proliferated throughout our entire Discord server. Everybody has their own kind of copy, their own version of your Sork build.
When it works,
what we all call the Execute Sork. Really awesome build. Kvatch Gladiator. That's the secret, guys.
That's the secret.
Shh, don't tell anybody, though.
I know it pains you that the secret's out now.
It does. I didn't think after months of me holding it to myself.
You had it under wraps.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell anyone for, I think, 2 or 3 months, and then I finally let it loose, and I was like, oh, I've had plenty of time, and now it still hurts every now and then that other people know.
Like, seriously, 5 or 6 people on our Discord server just, like, have copy pasted that build and are like pasting screenshots of like 30 kills a match and crazy stuff like that.
We have enough that we have official Sork nights now.
We do.
Yeah. We'll tell a little story about that later, I think. But for now, so UncleSam is here, so that can only mean one thing. That's right. It's time for another BG report. So if you haven't listened to the BG report before, what it is we basically just do a deep dive into the current state of Battlegrounds. We talk all about the ins and outs of the current meta in Battlegrounds specifically. So we're not taking any considerations for like open world or anything, or dueling or anything like that. And so we'll kind of do a general sort of deep dive of the overall situation, and then we'll do the really juicy part where we rank all the classes and subclasses from worst to best. So let's just start off with a general state of Battlegrounds, and I'll just start us off with Wardens.
Everywhere.
Wardens are the general state of Battlegrounds at the moment. Probably half the players you go up against a lot of the time tend to be Wardens, and as a result, it's an extremely tanky meta. Davius, you and I have been playing about the same amount of time. Can you remember a tankier meta ever than what we're in right now?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. With the tankiness combined with the CC,
That's it. I've never been so stuck.
Yeah. The crowd control really is a factor to that as well, because not only is it difficult to deal damage to people because they are so resilient, but your combos are constantly being broken up by this constant crowd control, like never not crowd controlled all the time. I think that's another symptom of Wardens being so popular, right? Because they're kind of Frost themed, or at least that's being pushed on them very much this current meta. But it's not just Wardens. I feel like a lot of people are kind of being inspired by these Warden builds. I've seen Templars, Dragon Knights spamming Wall of Frost everywhere they go as well. You know, it's just kind of like a popular thing to do, is just spam that AoE crap everywhere. So not very fun. I feel like every meta, everyone always says it's a tanky meta. Like if you go to the official forums, like it doesn't matter what balance changes are made, there's always people saying like, it's going to be a tanky meta. But man, this is the real deal. This is really like, it can be absolutely impossible to kill people.
We finally got the real tanky meta.
Yeah, it's for real here. We've talked about before how the random only queue, I think, is a big factor as well, because that actually gives you the incentive to build that way, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
If those options are in the game, it wouldn't matter if we didn't have the incentive to actually use those things. I think that's kind of what's going on. But on the upside, I think if you kind of take all the wardens and put them into a bubble and kind of set that to the side and look at everything else, I do think build diversity is kind of at an all-time high if you ignore the wardens, you know. But there is this kind of like renaissance going on of like all kinds of different builds. You see like bow DKs and, you know, weird stuff like that actually getting good results. That might be a bad example because bow builds are seems to be kind of drying up here lately. I think that might be kind of because of the wardens, because bow builds are very ineffective against them.
I saw a force pulse corrosive spamming DK the other day that was unbelievably effective. So yeah, the renaissance is here.
I have ran into that same build. I suspect it's an Oaken Soul build, just running really high.
Don't blame the Oaken Soul. Whoa.
Really high ulti gen, yes. And they're just staying corrosive and spam force pulse at you from long range. That's the entire offense, is that one ability. And it'll melt you in like 2 global cooldowns.
Even
really
in
rough.
mist form, every force pulse was probably taking 20% of my health. In mist form.
Totally brutal. Because corrosive armor, that's giving them 100% penetration against you. So you're just taking every single point of damage from that freaking force pulse. Because DKs are balanced to be like in melee range, right? So like that corrosive armor, it's not so bad considering that, but you give them something like force pulse and it's a different situation. Another thing I do like about the current meta is that damage is very deliberate and intentional. You know, you're really not fighting the environment. You know, like if someone's attacking you, they are looking at you and they are casting abilities at you like on purpose, you know, and I do like that about the current meta. I don't like metas where we're just fighting proc sets and dots and people are killing you without even meaning to, you know, that's no fun. So I can enjoy that about the meta as well.
That is a really good point. Like when you die in a BG, usually you know who it was that got the kill on you.
I can't think of any current proc set that is giving me an issue, but there are certain proc sets that you'll find on a warden that will reduce your mobility down to 0. And that have been a real factor for me in placing it on our BG list.
I'll tell you a proc set that has been an issue for me lately is the Engine Guardian monster set.
You're right, actually. That one too.
The popularity of that thing, I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, everyone is wearing that thing, and it is infuriating.
That thing is everywhere right now.
It's everywhere, and you can just never target the person wearing it. It's really annoying. It's super effective, and it gives you really good sustain as well. It's a great monster set, honestly. I refuse to use it, though. That's one of those that just I won't put on a build. I have noticed lately there hasn't been a ton of dart conversions. You see it now and then, but really not a lot of it. Plague Break really isn't a huge issue these days. Rush of Agony, honestly, the popularity of that seems to have faded as well. So those I'm trying to like kind of list off the positive things about the meta. You know, we went through there's too much CC, everyone's so tanky, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, good build diversity aside from the wardens, damage is deliberate. These certain proc sets that were such a pain in the past really aren't very present these days. Those are good things. So really, you know, there's a bit of good, bit of bad going on. And of course, as we stated lots of times before, it's always in cycles. This tanky meta is not going to last forever. We'll have a high damage meta and then we'll have another tanky meta and on and on and on. Any other general observations about just kind of the general state of Battlegrounds before we move on?
I got one, but I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little hesitant to dive into this, but here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
You know, I was thinking about this, and you know, we don't have to go into this part of it too much, but I was, you know, scrolling through the Discord and kind of looking at all these screenshots. We've had some great screenshots of just people in the Discord just wrecking in BGs, just having fantastic BGs. Sam, a lot of those. But, you know, it just kind of got me thinking that really we're talking about all time and where we've been, especially me and you, Ked, have played all the way back since, you know, one Tamriel.
Right.
I think right now kills are at an all-time low in terms of value in an actual BG.
Yes.
Like getting kills, the actual value of getting a kill in BG is an all-time low. The value is being tanky and staying alive and avoiding kills so that you can achieve the objectives, but getting actual kills, there's really very little value in it right now.
Yeah, it's just deathmatch is the one mode that incentivizes that at all.
Yep.
And you get that statistically way less often than you should.
Yes, absolutely.
If I could add a point,
yeah.
I haven't been playing as long as you guys, but at least since the Elsewhere patch, I've never had to go around so many targets before. At least when I first started playing, everyone was a potential kill, or
yes.
at least 99% of players. Now, in every BG, there's going to be a few people that you will literally play around them because they're not going to die.
You have to hunt for killable targets, and it kind of sucks because you end up like really focusing a handful of players that are even possible to kill. You just end up kind of tunnel visioning just them, and it seems like the situation where you're really focusing them, but you don't want to waste time on someone that cannot be killed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that is a spiral, because if you're focusing on those squishier players who are also building for damage so they can get kills, I mean, if they're going to die over and over and over, and their teammate who does nothing as a tank never dies, it's going to start looking real good to them to make a tank.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Skuma says there's a general decline in skillful players, and I agree with that. And Davius, I think that goes with what you were, kind of the point you were alluding to, that Battlegrounds have been, I think, intentionally geared to be more casual friendly, more appealing to people who aren't skilled combatants, but they can run the relic, they can stand on the flag, and they can win the match and feel like they accomplished something. I do think that that's the idea. They don't want it to be so competitive on the combat end of things.
Yeah.
That only makes sense as they have a ranked mode for the card game, but they do not have any kind of ranked mode for BGs.
Don't get me started, Sam.
Sorry.
Welcome in, by the way, Skuma. I didn't see you come in, man. Thanks for coming. Well, let's kind of start getting into this class ranking situation. I'm going to give us a little bit of a preface here just to kind of give people an idea of how we came up with this stuff. So first of all, in the past, we've always talked about this in terms of magicka builds and stamina builds. We're gonna do away with that terminology this time, and instead we're going to go melee and ranged. So everything's going to be split between a melee version of a class and a ranged version. And in either case, they could be magicka or stamina, right? Like a ranged sorcerer could be holding a fire staff, or they could be holding a bow. And we have friends that do both. Actually, Sam, your Sork build, you literally have both on that build.
I do. I have one bow, one staff.
So we'll be going melee versus ranged, and there'll be a couple of exceptions we'll talk about along the way. This is all going to be from a deathmatch perspective. So we're not taking any other modes into consideration. We're talking about effectiveness in a deathmatch is the consideration here. Because everything else, everything's a totally different consideration if we're talking about standing on flags and everything else. I do want to remind people that it's all a very narrow range that we're talking about here. The difference between the best on the list and the worst on the list is pretty small, actually. And in the hands of a good player, like I'll give you a quick little spoiler here. Hope you don't mind me giving it away, Sam. Melee Necromancer is last on our list. But if you were to run into our friend UncleSam here on his Melee Necromancer in a battleground, you would not draw that conclusion that they would be the worst class you could play in a battleground. But that's a necro main playing their main. A good player is a good player no matter what class they're playing on. So always keep that in mind. The criteria that we're using to sort of come up with these scores and stuff, we're going off of killing power, we're going off of group synergy and general popularity. And popularity alone can carry things pretty far, as we'll see. And so all three of us, me, Davius, and Sam, we all made our own list, our own sort of order. And then with the power of math, we combined them into one master list. And so that's what we'll be reading here. I figured we'd be a little more normal this time, and instead of starting with number 1, we'll start at the bottom and work our way to number 1. So we're evolving the show. We're improving, learning new tricks.
Still getting better.
So we have a list of 10 here. You might expect 12, but Dragon Knights and Wardens only get 1 entry on the list because I kind of figured all Dragon Knights are melee. I mean, you run into a ranged DK now and then, but typically they're just melee. And in my experience, a Warden's a Warden, and I can't really tell whether they're using magic or stamina abilities. It's usually a mix. So
Zos wants them to have a frost staff.
That's true.
I was going to argue that there is 2 Wardens last patch when there were some Dizzy Swing Wardens, but now the Ice Staff's better than makes it, you can't Dizzy Swing anyway, so.
Yeah.
There's 1 Warden now, for sure.
And then we'll talk about Werewolf kind of as an aside at the end and sort of theoretically where would we put them. We don't really count them in the list, but we'll theoretically put them in at the end. For you, Skooma.
just for Skooma.
So let's start with number 10. Sam, it's gotta hurt. Melee goodness. Necromancer. Last on the list.
Never seen it sink this low before, Kat.
And I was surprised when you sent me your personal list, you had Melee Necromancer at the very bottom as well. So you didn't let your bias get in the way?
No, I was not taking it as I was taking it from the perspective of what threats I encounter in the BG, and never do I ever even see a stamina necro. Yeah. And if there is one, they're of absolutely no threat at all.
Yeah, they really aren't threatening. It wasn't long ago they were like tippy top, man. They were like stamina brawlers. Like a couple of years ago, stam brawlers were kind of the thing, and they were the best of the brawlers.
It wasn't even too bad when my intensive mender still healed me for full heals when I could get out there and brawl a bit.
I feel like Sam secretly loves this. Nobody's out there taking
his
necromancer build. He's all alone on an island.
That is secretly what's really nice about having an underperforming class is like if that's your main and you can figure out how to still make them good, it feels extra awesome to pull that off. That Mender nerf hurt pretty bad. Is that you think that's a big factor?
That one keeps me up at night, Kat. Sometimes I wake up out of nightmares still thinking about me running in without the tooltip anymore.
Yeah, it's sad. It needed to be nerfed. It might have been nerfed a little too hard.
I don't know.
We predicted it. We predicted it whenever
you called it.
Whenever hybridization went down, we're like, what about all these stam crows with the Mender? That's going to be nuts. And
I got it to a 15k tooltip every 2 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Those were the good days.
I am curious, did you switch your morph on the Mender, or do you still use the... Yeah, that's what I think that's what most players are probably doing.
It only got half as nerfed if you switched it to the other morph. However, the other morph was just mathematically worse than the intensive Mender, so... Now I have the one that absorbs 10% of your incoming damage.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
But I'm with you. I don't see them. I don't run into stam crows or melee necros hardly ever. And I think, one of our criteria is popularity. Mm-hmm. And I think popularity alone brings them pretty close to the bottom. They're brawlers, like a melee necromancer. They compete with dragon knights and wardens in that space, and they just don't hold up in either case.
Yep.
So it sucks, but like we said, if you run into Sam in a battleground and he's on his necromancer, I wouldn't take that situation lightly.
Oh yeah, he can take a DK.
So okay, we'll move on along. So that's number 10. Number 9, we have Necromancer again. Necromancer bombers.
Bottom 2.
So what we're calling a ranged necromancer is really just specifically bombers. That's really basically the only necromancer that exists in Battlegrounds these days. If you see a necromancer, they're a bomber. That's what they are, or maybe a healer. They're not super popular. I don't see them a lot these days, except if you're in super sweaty pre-mades, they do play a crucial role in that particular setting.
Every great team has one.
Yeah, most of them. If you're putting together like an optimized team and you really want to be the best, you're probably going to have a necro bomber on there.
From my perspective, I've noticed that the teams that have those bombers that are actually capable of blowing a whole team up, they've got to run real squishy this patch. So they have to push the damage so high that they're not a hard kill to get if you can catch them out.
That is true. I won't say any names, but there's a particular one in a guild that we're in that I always gun for because I know he's squishy.
Me
too. He's always a good sport about it. But yeah, you don't see them a lot. If we were talking about like if we're just talking about pre-mades only and nothing else, they'd probably be a lot higher on the list. So not much else to say about them. Anything else about bombers?
The only thing I would just say about Necro is that, and there's not a whole lot of them, but me and you, Kit, both have one. Is the kind of the CC support Necro, and I actually
that's a fun way to play on.
I think they're actually in an okay spot, but Warden has kind of stolen their thunder.
Right. I was about to mention that.
This meta
Warden is so strong, and that Mender nerf does hurt.
Yes,
that does hurt. That spec. That's one of the things that was so nice about that type of build as a support is like you can afford to put all these CC abilities on your bar instead of healing abilities because that Mender alone is doing so much work. Not really the case anymore. It's still a good way to play them, though.
While you were controlling the crowd, your Mender would be healing me oftentimes. So you can be trapping the enemy and he can be healing me, but now the heal is meaningless almost.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot more challenging kind of build to play. Still fun and still effective. It just requires a bit more kind of intentional heals. All right, so that's number 9. Number 8 on our list of 10. Look who's not last anymore. Ranged Nightblade, what we would have called a Magblade in the past.
Moving up.
I don't think they've ever not been last on our BG report list. This is the first time ever, and they've moved up 2 spots.
Yeah, this is big time.
So congrats, Nightblades. Most improved. They get the most improved award.
I'd give that to Warden.
Again, popularity. Probably so, actually. I still maintain Wardens before all these insane buffs. Wardens were already extremely powerful. They just weren't very popular for whatever reason.
I agree. I can agree.
You look at their toolkit, it was all there already. Anyway, ranged Nightblades, I just don't see a ton of them. You see them once in a while, but I feel like popularity has declined quite a bit, or I don't know if it's declined, it just never was super high in Battlegrounds.
I wonder, Kat, if that has any bearing on how high your MMR is. Just because I had just recently made a new character, and in low MMR BGs, there's a whole lot of sniping Nightblades shooting out.
I can definitely believe that.
Are they getting kills?
I mean, the popularity is absurdly high. I would say there's a few, but not many. And normally it comes from, help me with this set. There's a set when you do critical poison damage. There's a Scavenging Maw will come out, a proc set that will help them out. Occasionally that will snipe a kill for them, but they're pretty popular in low MMR, but you rarely see them in high MMR.
Yeah, that's probably it. I've experienced that on Nightblade in general. As your MMR climbs, it's a lot more challenging to get results with the Nightblade.
I would be interested. I would be willing to bet that the most popular character for like a new ESO player is a range type Nightblade.
Yeah, that's the one I started on too.
A Khajiit bow Nightblade. Right? Yeah, that's got to be the most popular thing that a first time player does.
Not everybody's first time character.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Wardens are so prevalent is a big deterrent to just range builds in general, right? Because Wardens are basically immune to range attacks with their Shimmering Shield. Nightblades also compete with Templars, or ranged Nightblades. They compete with Templars and Sorcerers for that niche of that like sort of long range executioner sort of role. That's the niche they need to be trying to fill, and they just don't hold a candle to Templar or Sorc in that regard.
Yeah.
Nightblade in general has extremely predictable offense. Even melee Nightblades do, but melee Nightblades are at least close enough where your reaction time needs to be very quick in order to avoid that damage. Whereas with a ranged Nightblade, they have that predictable offense and that long travel time, and they just rarely land the combo. They can have very good heals. That is one thing, a Nightblade can be built to have extremely good heals, and that's something they can bring to the table. And I think that's a big reason why they're number 8 instead of number 10.
Yep.
I see it.
Anything else about ranged Nightblade? I guess not. We're moving along.
Moving right along.
Number 7, Melee Templar has fared better than I expected they would on this list. I was thinking they were going to be a bit lower than this, but Melee Templar, like a typically probably what I'm thinking of like a jab spamming Templar, but you very well could be using, Dizzying Swing or Rapid Strikes or whatever. Mine's still going to be using jabs, and that's going pretty well. But yeah, number 7, Melee Templar. Davius, what do you think? Do you think like the massive nerfs that Templars have gotten recently could be playing a factor in where they're at on this list right now?
I think you just summed it up pretty well. You had legit excitement about Melee Templars being number 7 out of 10. Like you were actually excited about that. You're like, all right, 7, here we go.
I was feeling good about 7.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums up the current state of the Melee Templar.
Ket, I'm going to call you out here.
Okay.
Do you have a little biased of why Templar made it this high in the list? Because your personal Templar is doing excellent right now. Do you think other Melee Templars are doing well, and they're not just doing well because they're benefiting from the beam?
This is you guys. On my list, Templars are lower than this. I think they're number 8 on my list.
Oh, okay. Well,
no, it's you guys that brought them up. Not me. Don't look at me.
Look at you guys. Look in the mirror.
Well, Davius and Sam, what do you think?
Yeah.
I had them at number 7 on my list, so this fits perfectly for me. I think the thing with Melee Templar is that I mean, we're talking about number 7 out of 10 here. So
That's true.
Let's be honest. They're
So
not
low.
in a good spot. They're not. It's not great, but they still, they still can. If you build them right, they can still do decent damage. And they still, for a melee class, have a pretty good team support toolkit. So I think that's probably what puts them at 7. Because, I mean, looking at the rest of this list, like, you look at Sam, I'm not trying to knock the melee necromancer, but you look at like from a group support standpoint, the melee Templar is going to be a lot better.
Yeah, just
for the team.
Stan Necro doesn't provide anything.
He's just
there.
He's just there.
Yep.
Yeah, Templar, like we've said lots of times before, they make a really great Swiss Army knife. You can throw them on pretty much any team, and they're going to contribute in a good way. You're never going to be mad about having a Templar on your team. But they just don't have the firepower that they used to, plain and simple. I've managed to find a good way to build my Stamplar that does have pretty good damage, and I'll talk about that another time. But it can be done. Melee Templars can be powerful and fun to play, but they've fallen quite a bit just because they've gotten so many nerfs, and they do not have the firepower that they used to have. I also find that their support kit is adequate, but it's kind of mid-tier these days. You compare them to a Warden, not even close.
That's a tough comparison right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, like even like Nightblades, I think kind of challenge them for that space. Sorcerers can be extremely good healers. Like Templars are not the like de facto healing class like they used to be. Not at all. They're kind of in the mid-range as far as healing effectiveness, I think.
Really, it's those Sorc pets that take all the credits for those heals. Don't give the sorcerers the credit for those heals.
Sure.
It's the pets.
Oh, I see.
The Sorc is pushing the button on the keyboard to make it happen.
Exactly.
So that's Melee Templar. Anything else about them?
I don't think so. I think 7's a good spot for them. It's about
7's a good spot. Right. If you saw a Melee Templar doing well in your BG, it's only because he's finishing those kills, unless it's Ket with the beam, and he would be more effective if he was doing that at range anyway.
There will never, I predict this now, it will never happen will Ket put the beam on old Betsy. Never will it happen.
He's a stubborn man.
Well, I do have a surprise for you. I tried it just this morning. I did slot it.
What? I just said you'd never do
it. It's over.
Well, I'm telling you.
Hey, make me look good in the editing cut.
Yeah, I got the editing magic. No, I tried it for one BG this morning. I put it on my bar, and absolutely, I got like twice as many kills. But I did not like it. For one, this is very much still kind of a Templar, mine is, and it was a bit too much of a magicka drain. Also, it just kind of ends up becoming all about the beam. Like
all about the beam.
You kind of end up in a situation where like you see someone from far away with low health. What, are you just not going to take that kill? I mean, you have the beam right there. Like
it's just sitting right there.
And so you end up just spamming that beam all the time, and I'm like ignoring the rest of my offensive toolkit that I have here. I may as well just be slotting ranged abilities, you know. So I just don't like having it slotted on a melee Templar.
You might as well be taking my talking points for when I talk about my Templar.
So anyway, Templar, right? Is that it for Templar?
That's it.
That's it.
We're moving on. That was number 7. Number 6 on our list of 10, we have melee sorcerers, what we would have called a Stamsorc in the past. And that's probably still mostly what they are, but we're going to call them a melee sorc. Number 6, so they're hovering right around the middle range there. I think technically the middle is right between 5 and 6, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, they're like the best of the bottom half melee sorcerers.
Yeah.
For me, really, it's just killing power. That's like the only thing they bring to the table is they're just killing machines, and that's good enough to bring them up to number 6. That alone.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think their group support is the fact that they're going to get your team kills. That's their group utility.
Right. They're supporting you by making sure that there's no enemies around to do damage to you at all.
Every now and then you can hope that they'll streak through the person that is hitting you.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no support whatsoever. Otherwise, they'd be higher on the list. But just that killing power, and I would say their popularity has increased as well, and that brings them up a bit.
I want to dive real quick in that killing power. In at least what I've noticed in BGs, that there may only be 1 or 2 people I know that can play it really at the really tip-top levels to kill other great players. Their killing power comes from stopping maybe the lower 60% of players in any given BG. Maybe 70% of players. There's a bunch of like top players. At least I don't find melee sorcerers that threatening, unless maybe it's just a couple of players in the whole game right now. But they can absolutely stomp the lower half of the players in a BG.
Yeah, certainly. There are a handful that I run into that I know to watch out for. And I can speak from my own first-hand experience of playing on my Stamsorc. I mean, I get way more kills on that build of mine than any others.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where my kind of reasoning is coming from there. But they can hit super hard. The ones that you see out there that are stacking that damage, and it's really nice is like you're seeing a lot of, like we've mentioned before, like you're seeing a lot of like classic, just like dizzy spamming Stamsorcs that are just hitting you with Dizzy Swing and Executioner and Dawnbreaker and streaking away.
Weapon. That Crystal Weapon Dizzy Swing.
Yeah, Crystal Weapon Dizzy Swing.
That's that sweet spot.
They're kind of an interesting spot. Is that really the best thing about them when you're playing them is also kind of it hurts them at the same time, just in the sense that, you know, they're very much kind of a solo army. Like when they're on a team, like very rarely you can't really stick with the team. Like if you're playing one, you need to be moving around, streaking around, and going and getting hits. And really what that causes you is that you're kind of on your own. You're not really, as much as the team, you know, we talked about their group support. They're not really getting support from the rest of the team either. They're not getting like heal. You know, if there's a healer on the team, they may get some heals, but for the most part, they're going to be moving around so much. They're going to be kind of out of range from the rest of the team.
Definitely hit and run.
Yeah, they're not resilient enough to like stay up in that.
They can't
brawl,
brawl.
You know. Yeah.
They're often third partying. That's why I was kind of mentioning my first point. They're not going to go head to head, 1-on-1 and fight a DK. They're going to hit them with their ult, and then they're going to leave.
Yeah,
if that combo can't get them, that player is pretty much off the chopping block in that BG. They're going to go for someone else.
They kind of have that in common with Nightblades, I would say. It's like you can just kind of try them once and like, nope, can't kill that person. Go find someone else.
Yep.
I do like that hybridization has benefited melee sorcs like so much. Like they have so many options available to them now. Like I have my Stamsorc that I think is just an excellent build. I don't think I've seen a single other build that's exactly like mine, you know. And really every Stamps work I see, none of them are exactly the same. There's one that's a bash build that I've talked about before that I dread seeing in a battleground because I know it's going to be absolutely brutal. There's another one like we were just saying, it's just a standard like crystal weapon dizzy swing build that just gets absolutely phenomenal results. So I think they're in a great spot. They have really good killing power and they have a lot of really awesome build options. Zero support, but their popularity has increased. So I think right here, top of the bottom half, kind of in the middle of the list, seems like a good spot to me.
That's a good spot for them. Top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom.
Top of the bottom to you. Well, there's a episode title.
Episode title right there. There it was. There it was.
Top of the bottom to you. So that was number 6. Number 5, we have melee Nightblades, what we would have probably called a stand blade in the past. Although a lot of them these days actually are mostly Magicka based. So we're talking about the standard like stealth gank style, kind of stand blade play style. Sam, I think if we were talking specifically about your stand blade or your Nightblade, it'd probably be a lot higher on the list.
I know. I feel like when I made my list, Kat, I let a little too much bias come in from my Nightblade. Because sitting here thinking about it now, I like it in this spot. But I wouldn't put it, from my point of view, at this spot, thinking about my Nightblade.
Just from your first-hand experience, you freaking shred on your Nightblade.
Yeah. He doesn't have like too tanky a target. It's just the right timing. Like I can get almost anyone as long as I time it right.
I think that's the key to it right there. Is that I was telling Kat just the other day that with melee Nightblades right now, like the tricky part is that when you get into a fight with a melee Nightblade, you're going to start that fight out with about 20 to 30% health. Like when you start attacking back, you're at about 20, 30% health compared to their full health. But if you can survive that first combo, like your odds of your odds of winning that fight are going to be really good because it seems like there's just so much for them to try to repeat that combo. But it sure as heck, and especially in a BG, like in a deathmatch setting, like even if they're not the ones that get to kill you, but once they get that combo on you and you're at that 20, 30% health, and maybe you can come back on them, but it puts you at such a disadvantage to anybody else that comes around and finds you after the Nightblade hits you.
It's always surprising to find like how wide your execute range actually is when you're fighting a Nightblade. Like you think you have a safe amount of health, and turns out you didn't.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm nervous fighting Nightblades because I just don't know what they're packing. Some of them don't pack that much, and you have a wide margin, and then all of a sudden, some of them can hit 22 to 24k bows on you. Which
you get a Spectral Assassin's Will, literally 24k on your recap.
Yep.
Outrageous. So melee Nightblades are in an excellent spot. Number 5 out of 10. They can even have pretty good support if they want to. Like you put Wretched Vitality on. Like mine is. I would call mine a stand blade, but he has Wretched Vitality. He has Shrewd Offering, and I heal people all the time. So they're really good at that. They're a lot more survivable than they've been in the past as well. So they can actually brawl. Like even if you're playing a stealthy sort of play style. You can afford to get in the brawl once in a while, maybe be a bit of a body block for your teammates if you need to be. They're just kind of capable of being a lot more team oriented while still having that stealthy sort of play style. You really don't see people complain about having Nightblades on their teams anymore. You know, like that's just a thing of the past. Like I'll see a Nightblade on my team, I'm like, sweet, hope they kill 100 people. Awesome. You know,
that is true. Plus, it's they've really created. I feel like they've really created as other players not playing a Nightblade, you kind of have to have an answer for stealth. Like that wasn't something I had to worry about in the past, and now it's like, man, I need something on there in case there's a Nightblade in this.
You got to have an answer to it on your bar somehow, whether it's actually like Mage Light, something made for that, or just like an AoE direct damage attack of some kind, like Poison Breath or something like that.
If you don't have an answer, they know that too. At least I know.
They'll find that
out. I'm
going
to keep coming back. So if that gank didn't work, that's just because I didn't crit that time. I'm coming back if you don't have an answer for me.
Yep, exactly. And if you do have an answer, they figure that out and they kind of scram a lot of the time.
Yeah,
they'll get out of dodge.
Yeah.
So yeah, Radiant Mage Light is your friend. That thing has what, like a 20-meter radius? Like no Nightblade escapes that thing.
Nope.
All right, so that's number 5. Number 4 on our list of 10, Ranged Sorcerer. We'll say Mag Sorc, but it could be a Bow Sorc. You never know, but we're basically talking about Mag Sorcs here.
We're talking about the Execute Sorc. Sam single-handedly has got this
I
thing
know
in the top 4.
all of our bias has sunk into this. I know it. It should not be number 4. If you watch other content creators, or not even watch anybody, if you just listen to other people talk about Sorcs, they all say that they're in a bad place.
Well, this is one spot where I'm aware of the bias, and I'm happy to let the bias fly because they're wrong.
They are wrong.
Absolutely
I agree,
wrong.
Kit. They don't know how to build it right.
Now, keep in mind, we're talking specifically about a Battlegrounds environment, about a deathmatch situation. And, one big consideration there is like if we're talking about a team comp and you're talking about like roles that need to be filled, niches that need to be filled, you got to have a Sorc on the team. You can't not have a Sorc on the team.
Yep.
That's where your kills are going to come from. I mean, it's we talked about our kind of how we rated them, our scoring system. The range Sorc is absolutely number 1 killing power. By I would say by a decent margin, they are number 1 in killing power.
Yep.
They still got it. And I see it all the time, like even still today, like in guild chats and on the official forums, streamers, YouTubers, people like saying sorcerers are D tier. They've been surpassed by everyone. They need these buffs. Man, they're going to regret saying that because they're going to get what they wish for. Sorcerers are going to get buffed, and you're going to realize they were already decent, and now they're overpowered.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you think they're not in a good spot, just scroll through the scroll in Discord at the screenshots of the Execute Sorcs out there, and just 20 kills, 30 kills, 40 kills.
Yeah, we have people on our server that have literally never played a Sorc before, and they heard us talking about Sam's Execute Sorc. They thought it sounded like fun, threw it together really quick, and put up like a 40 kill count match, like right away.
Yeah, just it is a little wild to think about how they really are just they're just not getting any love right now. But I mean, it's just wrong. Like they're killing power on a Sorc right now. Range Sorc is very good.
I don't want to say the Scrolling Podcast is ahead of its time, but it's ahead of its time. That's all there is to it.
Oh man, yeah. That's good.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing is like as far as that ranged executioner with really good offense, like we could point at a Templar. They have that super powerful beam, and they make really good executioners too. But with a Templar, they don't have the rest of the offense really to put someone down in execute range all by themselves. Like a Sorc doesn't really need their team with them to burst someone all the way down. No. They can do it all on their own. That kick on that overload, you'll take on the tankiest warden. You'll burn through them.
And they have better mobility.
Yeah, and better mobility.
And
exactly.
with that, what is that thing called? The Twilight
Matriarch.
They've got just as good a heals, if not better.
Exactly.
It's got it all.
So yeah, they have the support, they have the firepower from long range. You basically have to have them in your pre-made if you want to get good results. So don't believe the negativity; it's just not true. Sorcs are in a great spot. You might not be able to 1vx an entire Zerg and Cyrodiil like they have been able to in the past, but I don't think that's kind of the standard to shoot for. I can't fight 30 people at once.
And I like that you brought it up. I was going to talk about it later, but they fill the same role as the Execute Templar. But the advantage, and I know we have Templar higher on our list, but the advantage that the Sorc has over the Templar is if that Templar uses their combo and beams a really tanky DK or a tanky Warden, and it doesn't work, it's not going to work. You're going to need other people on them to help you get that Execute. But that overload doubles your damage. Like if there's a tanky Warden who's even running the shield, I've killed Wardens straight through their 100% range protected shield, where they'll get a 30k range damage shield, and with overload on, I'll still kill them through it.
I think overload changes things.
Everything changes the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would all three agree that the range Sorc is in a better spot than the range Templar, despite our list, but popularity alone is why the range Templar is higher, because it is extremely more popular right now.
If you're low, you're getting a beam.
Yeah, there's beam. You in a BG,
you might get a couple
called,
beams.
They're called beam Gs now. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what they're called
beam
nowadays.
Gs. That's good.
So yeah, ranged Sork was number 4. Ranged Templar, Beamplar we have at number 3, and you're totally right. Any battleground you go into, it's like the eye of Sauron is in the sky, and if you even think about losing any health beam, you get a beam.
It's happening.
Sometimes you're full health and you still have a beam on you.
Yeah.
You don't even know where the beam's coming from because they're 28 meters away.
Yeah, that's true. It's the longest damn beam.
It seems like you kind of saw, like when this patch hit and the beam got that buff, you kind of saw an uptick in these builds out there. But I think it's like increasing now. Like we're seeing even more beam plars all of a sudden. They're kind of everywhere. You're gonna get a beam if you get hit at all by anything. Beam, you're gonna get a beam.
Now, Kenton Davis, did you foresee this level of popularity? Because I thought the popularity was going to go up, but I didn't know by how much.
No, I did not.
No, I think, and for just one ability, I mean, I think it's the most popular ability in the game now, at least from a BG standpoint.
I'm going to talk about it a little later, but that can be your entire combo. Just beam.
Yeah, you don't need anything
just
else.
The ability. You need nothing else.
The tooltip of the beam on its own without the target being in execute range is almost on par with a regular spammable.
Yeah.
You know, like you could just use it as a spammable if you wanted to, if you're trying to save bar space. Probably the best version of a Templar that exists has a beam on there. You're probably a ranged offense Templar with the beam. It's probably the best. If you want the best possible Templar, it's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All the same things that I would say about a melee Templar are kind of true as far as like they're pretty good at everything. They have good offense, they have good defense, they're just sort of well-rounded. But being long-ranged and having that beam makes a pretty big difference compared to like the melee version of a Templar, right? You have that long-range perspective, you can kind of keep a better eye on things and you're just snatching those kills up. So it's just a lot more effective on the overall team effort there.
And I feel like we have to talk about when the beam is on you, good luck getting that thing off of you.
Yeah, it can't be dodged. And it theoretically can be like line of sighted, but
I don't believe it.
if the tree or the pillar or whatever isn't large enough, it won't break the beam.
Yeah.
So popularity alone I think brings them pretty high up. But also just the effectiveness as well. I think, I mean, they are very good. I would still say Sorcerer is better. Yeah. But just based on popularity, we're going to put that Beamplar at 1 point above them. That's number 3. Anything else about the Beamplar? Sam will have more to say about his here in just a little while. I do not like Sam's Beamplar. We have this this add-on.
He just straight up said, "I do not like it. I do
not care for it." We use this add-on called Kill Counter. It's a really awesome add-on. You can look at your fight history statistics, and you can see like what player or what character has killed you the most, and all kinds of different things. Sam's Beamplar has killed me the most of anyone else. So.
And it wasn't a hard combo, I must say.
You know what? I'd love to see the diversity of abilities used for the kills.
Yes, the actions per minute were awfully low.
So anyway, Range Templar number 3. So number 2, we have Dragon Knights. And again, we're not differentiating between ranged or melee for Dragon Knights. It's just Dragon Knights. They get 1 entry. And it's number 2. I feel like that's a good spot for them just based on popularity and effectiveness and just overall badassery. You know, like Dragon Knights are just kind of
terrifying. They're terrifying.
Just sort of terrifying. Sam, you kind of have a newfound respect for DKs.
I do.
Recently.
I have just created my first DK, and I must say it is much more difficult than I originally gave it credit for.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. You're not just like magically unkillable. You gotta know how to drive that thing.
Yeah, and I would put it this high on the list. I think this number 2 is a good spot for it for like a nuanced reason. Like when you walk in the BG match and you check the roster of who's on what teams, for some reason, you want DKs on your team.
You want Dragon Knights, totally.
Yeah. You want them because they put out consistent pressure on the entire enemy team. They nowadays throw great off heals. They lock down whole groups as well. Not only do they have pressure on them, but they CC entire groups with talons and fossilize, and they snare them. Like they're just all around the guy you want on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. If I have a Dragon Knight or two Dragon Knights on my team, heck yeah,
you know it's going to be a good match.
Yeah.
You have a solid, like rock solid foundation.
I would actually say if you take popularity out of our criteria, DK is my number one right now. I think they are in a fantastic spot, and man, a good DK is the most terrifying thing in a BG right now.
I think I might be right there with you, Davius. I mean, obviously, spoilers, Wardens are number one, but like, I think DKs are low key the actual meta, the ones that are actually like getting it done, like doing the work and getting results.
Their damage is off the charts, and they can just not only can they actually finish you off, but it's the most demoralizing thing ever because it just seems like they're invincible. There's nothing you can do about it. They're healing up. Their sustain is outlasting you. Those good DKs just seem almost impossible to take down.
And it's the classic DK where like you can see the end 60 seconds before it happens, and you just
know
have
it's
to
coming,
go
but
through
you're just there.
I'm going to be the one out of the three of us who says I still do believe that Wardens are superior to DKs. And my last couple experiences where I'll see a very good DK run into a very good Warden, and there's nothing that DK can do. That Warden will get him from my just recent perception.
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say is that the DK's killing power is just so much better than the Warden right now.
I don't know.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I could see what you're saying, like in a 1v1 situation, but like if we're talking about overall like effectiveness in a battleground, like I never get killed by a Warden in a battleground. Not ever.
Is Skooma in here still? We just had some pre-made games the other night, and I watched a Warden hold 2 teams down and get 4.5 million damage and the most kills in every game. And I know what happens now when people are playing them correctly. And 1 million off heals. 4.5 million damage and 1 million off heals.
That's just ridiculous.
And held 2 teams down together.
I do agree with Kat. Like when I go into a BG, I'm more annoyed by going against the Warden rather than like worried or scared of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like with that Warden that you're talking about there, Sam, I always just have the option to cast forward momentum and walk out of that nonsense and just not engage with that,
I see what you mean.
I think Dragon Knights kind of don't let you have that option a lot of the time.
No, they're going to leap you down.
Yeah. I can see the perception both ways, yeah.
You can kind of, it seems like it's easier to get away from a Warden than it is a DK.
Yeah, I can see that. But if you have to actually engage that Warden, like there's just no way around it, you need to go through him. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, there's no doubt Wardens are incredibly powerful.
I mean, they're the reason about your comment earlier, Sam. You said you go in a BG and there's just certain people that you avoid. 75% of the time, it's going to be the Warden in the match.
It is. It's going to be the Warden or the DK. 1 and 2 on our list.
Just avoid them.
So as far as like pre-mades go, you got to have at least 1 Dragon Knight. If you can have 2 Dragon Knights, that's pretty good too. Just a rock solid foundation of any group. Like who's bringing the Dragon Knight? We can't have a team without a Dragon Knight, guys. Come on. Yep. What are we doing? So yeah, great shape on Dragon Knights. I think they're actually well balanced. Like they don't seem overpowered, they just seem powered and yeah, good on them.
Yeah, they seem balanced.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, Sam, you're an excellent player, and as you're learning, like it's not super easy to just jump in there and get amazing results right away. Like you got to learn how to play that thing. The power's there, but you got to figure it out.
Yep.
Number 1, of course, is Wardens. And again, just 1 entry for Wardens. We're not differentiating between ranged or melee. It's just a Warden. I agree with you, Davius. Popularity alone is what brings them here. And I think you were telling us last night you think Warden's a little bit overrated.
I do
kind of
think,
agree.
I do think of the top 5, I think Warden's probably the most overrated of the top 5. Not saying like I don't mean that they're bad. Like the CC is off the charts, the tankiness is off the charts, but I'm just not getting killed by Wardens right now. Like I'm a little terrified of this Warden that Sam's talking about, but for the most part, when I'm fighting against a Warden, like I'm just not worried about them killing me. Like that's not. I kind of like you said, you just get away from them and let them do their permafrost, let them throw their CC. Like I can just outrun them or get away from them, and I'm just not worried about them getting the kill on me.
I think another thing that puts them at the top 2, though, is something that's always been true about them is they are the best support class.
Yeah,
like bar none. Like
especially right now,
if you're the only team with a Warden, your team wins. That's just the end of that.
Yeah, they're number 1 on the group support for sure.
If I may make a prediction, just because I keep up on YouTube in the mornings when I'm just laying in bed trying to wake up to go get my coffee. I scroll through and I see if there's any new ESO PvP videos. I just recently saw quite a few build videos come out. So I'm going to make a prediction that in the next by the end of the next 2 weeks, we're going to see a lot more effective Wardens, more of the Wardens that I'm referring to.
Well, I absolutely hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
I have not been enjoying this Warden-dominated meta at all with all the CC. I mean, that's the main thing Wardens are bringing, is just crowd control. Lots and lots and lots of crowd control. And there's no doubt they have damage. I mean, I've definitely encountered Wardens that have some serious damage, but like it's not enough to kill me in one single global cooldown, so I just do a roll dodge and get out of their way, and they never hit me again.
I would say that from the Wardens that used to, way back when Wardens have always been good, but when they used to seemingly be more effective in the killing power, I think that the sub-assault nerf kind of hurt them more. I think that's really kind of what kind of secretly took the killing power away from them, is that those sub-assault, like they got all these buffs over everything, but that sub-assault or the Magicka version of either one, I think that nerf kind of really took a lot of their combo away from them.
Just like that sudden pop where like just suddenly your health bar's gone.
Yeah.
Well, with all the other stuff they have going on in their kit, I'm not necessarily mad about that.
I just want to clarify our thinking. If there's any scrolling listener out there who's thinking, why did Warden only get 1 spot on this list? Like, why is there not a melee and a range? Because there's Stam Wardens that used to use Dizzy Swing. This patch is gone. There's no reason to use a Dizzy Swing Warden anymore. The Ice Staff is superior in every single way. It's the highest damage of any weapon, and it has full shield blocking ability. And you can block with Stamina or Magicka, whichever one works. So
take your pick.
So Wardens are one, I think, this patch.
You really just you really don't see like a Dizzy Swing Warden anymore. I mean, maybe once in a great while, but even
he's
then,
doing it
probably
wrong, that
guy. But even if you do encounter one of them, they probably have a lot of the same toolkit that a Froststaff Warden has as well. They
still
going to
play in that mid range too, I believe, where it's not really melee, it's not really range. They play like within 15 meters, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of think a Warden's a Warden, really, and I kind of feel that way about Dragon Knights too.
The range of the sub assault is, I will forever yell that is a very misleading animation for that ability. The range on that's like ridiculous. I think it's like
20 meters.
Yeah, it's like 20 meters. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's longer than it looks.
Yeah, much longer.
So I hope the Warden, the reign of Wardens ends soon.
I don't know.
Probably around the time of the next chapter, the ship will start steering towards the next whatever the meta is going to be next time.
It could be potentially our fault, Kat. I feel like it was like maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago. We were like, Wardens are good, people. Why aren't you playing them?
Yeah.
Get on your Wardens. Oh no.
I've been saying that for a while.
What have we done?
Okay, theoretically, where would you put a werewolf, Davius, on our list? If we were to have a list of 11, where would you fit them on there?
Depends. Is Skooma listening or not?
Skooma, he's not
No,
in
he's
here.
gone.
He stepped out. He stepped out. That changes it.
Yeah, it's fine. It changes.
I probably it's what the toughest thing about werewolf is that they're very. I mean, all these are. I know that this is kind of a silly statement, but they're so build dependent. Just because every single werewolf has the exact same abilities. There's no way around it, and so they're so build dependent. I would probably fit them. Probably at 7. Like I'd probably put them at 7 and bump the melee Templar. I'd probably put them somewhere around that range. Only simply just because the survivability, like their heal is so incredibly strong, and if you do build them right, they can hit incredibly hard.
Yeah, probably the ballpark of where I'd put them. What do you think, Sam?
Yep, I would go 6.5. I'd put them right between the melee Sork and the melee Templar. I don't think they're as good as a melee
like a hive
Sork,
mind over here, guys.
but I think they're better than a melee Templar.
I think I would actually go one down. I'd put them at like 7.5.
Could that possibly be due to your love of the melee Templar?
No, I think Templar has that support that werewolves don't have at all, and to me that just ekes them out just slightly. I think they have maybe similar offensive effectiveness. Is kind of my hunch there.
Honestly, one of the things that really I think hurts werewolves is that you're going to be the tank for your team. You may not want to be, but
you will be.
You will be. You see a
you
werewolf,
better build
people
tanky
are going
because
for
you will be the tank.
Yes. Take out the werewolf. That's always rule number 1.
Myself, I always focus the werewolf.
They're big. They're howling. They're standing there.
Yeah,
you gotta take them out.
They're annoying. They're always howling. I hate that howl noise. It's like a taunt. I'm like, I'm gonna make him shut up. I hate that thing.
It's an incredibly strong heal.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I've seen my hatred of werewolves decline as they're now not like just absolute S tier. Because when I first started playing, they were really high up on a list.
Yeah. They've been such a roller coaster, werewolves have.
Yeah. Popularity wise, I would put them down 9 or 10. It's very rarely do you see one nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, like maybe 1 out of 3 battlegrounds. You'll see like 1.
Yeah. There's still a player out there who just won't let it die.
Yeah, there's still Skooma. Skooma still exists. Well, there you go. There's our BG report. So we have, I'll start at the bottom again, just a quick recap. Melee Necromancers at 10, Necromancer Bomber at 9. So the bottom 2 are Necromancers. Range Nightblade at number 8, Melee Templar at number 7, Melee Sork number 6, Melee Nightblade number 5, Range Sorcerer at number 4, Range Templar number 3, Dragon Knight number 2, and Warden number 1. And Werewolf would be somewhere in around the bottom-ish region there. Feel good? Does that feel like a good list to you guys?
I feel pretty good about it. It's I love that we added in the popularity because it really does kind of reflect the current meta. But there's definitely a couple of them that if you took the popularity out, I'd kind of swap some places around.
Yeah, that definitely is throws a wrench into things. Like Grizzly says, Skooma, get in here. They're talking shit about werewolves and put them at the bottom of the list. Tattletale, Grizzly. God.
Come on, Grizz.
Now, what do we think of vampires? Is it necessary this patch or not? Now that everyone's tankier, are they more effective or less effective?
I feel like all 10 of the list. Yeah, all 10 of the list could be vampires.
They could. I just mean, how important is it for them to be a vampire?
I feel like it's still a very popular thing for people to do, right? Like I see Mist Form and Vampire ult all the time.
Yeah.
The Vampire ult has definitely become very popular, and Mist Form for that matter.
I'm never willing to give up sustain, so I don't do Vampire ever. But I do see a lot of vampires out there, and I know that Unnatural Undeath passive is really something people want.
It is
being completely burned by Vampire. I feel like I have never made a Vampire since.
I cured them all when they made the changes.
I would say this is probably the best patch in a long time to ever not need that Undeath passive.
Yeah. I find survivability is pretty easy. I've been like trading off survivability measures for more damage. That's what I've been doing in my builds. Because you can, especially if you're fairly good at like a high actions per minute sort of play style, and you can kind of move well, then your survivability can be really good. The ideal team comp, what do you guys think? Probably a Warden dedicated healer, a DK brawler, an Execute Sork, and then like another Dragon Knight with like CC and AoE pressure, or a Necro Bomber. What do you think?
I would say no Necro Bomber.
Just 2 DKs.
I would say 2 DKs.
2 DKs, a Warden healer, and Execute Sork is a fantastic team. That's a pretty great team.
I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah, if you see a Warden healer, 2 Dragon Knights, and a Sork, if you pull up a scoreboard and you see that on a team, just
leave the
bounce
BG.
out.
Yeah,
just get out of there.
Your pants right then.
Out of
Even if they're mediocre players, that's just such a solid comp. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough time.
I would say there's no player in the game who could take the pressure from 2 DKs when the Sork turns on overload. Like, you're going to lose. It's just
and a Warden making everyone immortal.
Yeah. You're not going to kill any of them either.
All right. I think that's the BG report, guys. We did it.
Whew.
We did it.
All right. One more. Let's take our break here.
Does everybody need a break? Is that what we're saying here? Is it everybody clearly needs a break?
Clearly, we all have earned a break. Let's take like 2 minutes. I'll be back. Well, enough about Battlegrounds. Let's talk about Battlegrounds.
Perfect. I see what you did there.
We had our third Battlegrounds weekend event a couple of weeks ago, Crazy King weekend. I think this is my favorite so far. What do you guys think?
Yes, it went to time. You got the longest time in the BG. I think it was great. Got the whole 15 minutes almost every time.
I was really surprised. That was the main thing. Is it's like almost impossible to cheese the time on those matches. So you get really like at least 10-minute matches most of the time.
That's where we're at. Is that it was our favorite because it takes the longest to achieve.
Yes. Yeah. Well, those Relic weekends were awful. Those games would end in 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Those were bad.
I'd just get going at that point.
Or the Chaos Ball were bad too. Just one person grab it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If a tank got a hold of that ball, and you'll never pry it from his damn fingers.
That's the thing about Crazy King weekend. It wasn't nearly as much of a tank fest as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting a lot of like perma blockers just standing on flags. But I guess the fact that the flag moves around so much, people are incentivized to make different kinds of builds. There were tanks, but there were like speedy people. There were some people building for damage. It was kind of a fair mix of builds out there.
It did a good job too. I did not ever realize this before, of like breaking up what I would consider like a really tight like ball group. By the end, there's so many flags that you've just got individuals running to flags all over the place. Yeah, so you can get a lot of one-on-ones at that point.
But it really changed my perspective on Crazy King, honestly. Like, I really don't mind Crazy King. Like, now we're back to the random situation, and when Crazy King pops up, I'm really not super bummed about that. It's kind of a valuable lesson I learned from that weekend. It's like, you know what? Crazy King isn't the worst.
It's not compared to the others one out there.
During that weekend, or I think it was actually right after that weekend ended, we had a fun night where we got all of our Execute Sorks together. We had a full 4 squad. It was us 3, right? Davius, you, and Sam, and me, and our buddy King Nar. Shout out to King Nar. We all 4 got on our Execute Kavach Gladiator Sorcerer builds and ran into some Battlegrounds and just had a rip-roaring good time. A hilariously good time. We were just like steamrolling through teams. We were putting like screenshots in the Discord of just like outrageous kill counts. We're just like cracking up the whole time at just how everyone just instantly died as soon as we looked at them.
Yep.
Pretty fun time. And shout out to Mother of Dragons. She's a Sork main, and she plays a similar type of Execute Sork. But she was unable to join us that night, so she was missing out on all the fun, and she was seeing all the screenshots and getting all jealous and stuff. So then the next night, she was available, and we decided to try to do it again. I think, did she take your place, Davius?
She took my spot. Yep, she took my spot.
And it was not at all the same experience.
No.
Like, it was very, very. We got into some sweaty matches.
Oh gosh.
It was not as bad, I think, as like memory makes it out to be, because we had such a steamroll. We did fine.
We just were comparing it to the previous night.
Exactly. We had such a steamroll, but Mother did not appreciate the fact that she didn't get to have that noon stomp.
Going, what the heck?
No.
I think she even did like perfectly fine in that match, but it felt like we like lost because we just weren't steamrolling like we did the night before.
Oh man.
We certainly held our own. We did not lose, but it felt like a loss.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I kept saying. It's like, man, that was we did fine against those players. Like that was like a good team comp, some good players. Like we should feel good about that. Yep. Yeah, 4 execute stories. That is a fun time. If you have some friends, it's something I recommend. Super fun.
You would think, at least I thought it was going to go the first night. I thought it was going to go terribly. And then it actually went really well. And even the next night when we got into the teams I was worried about, like the really sweaty teams, it did better than I expected.
It's almost just like comical when you see the amount of like curses and endless furies pop on one player. It's just fireworks going on players.
That second night was a pretty cool demonstration in the value of a good brawler on a team, though. You know, like we were going up against that team that had a couple of brawlers, at least one Dragonite, I know. And that's what was giving us a challenge, because we couldn't just pop them in an instant. They didn't just fall over and die. You know, they kept coming at us and we had to deal with it. That's what made it tough.
Yep. I will say that first night, we have to remember, we won't say names, but there was a certain player that we're not super fond of that we were going against. It's a great player.
Oh,
but
man.
It turned us
we were bad people.
Man, it turned us into a unit. I don't know if we've ever been that organized before. Four Sorks, everybody kicked on their overload. We were calling out, kick on your overload, turn your overloads off.
We were so in the zone.
We turned into a strategic unit. That was pretty
The
fantastic.
common disdain for one player brought us together more than anything.
It really did. If we could have that level of focus all the time, we'd be unstoppable.
I'm going to go out and say we did not have that level of focus the second night.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because we needed
were in
that rhythm.
We needed that enemy on their team.
We needed to care that much because we cared.
we really cared that night. Oh, it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
The disdain is all warranted, I assure you.
Yes,
absolutely.
So I mentioned earlier the looming eye of Sauron in the sky with the ever looming beam. Sam, you've been playing a beam plar here lately that you've been terrorizing me with specifically. I don't appreciate
it. And again, Ket does not like this build.
No.
Well, I mean, I actually kind of have a similar build, but anyway, Sam, you want to tell us about your beam plar build that you've been having so much success with?
Sure, absolutely. I thought this would be a good one to bring up for the podcast, because if any of our scrolliners like the execute sorts. Yeah.
This one is truly another one of those builds where you put on this build and it just works. It doesn't, and it may even be more simplistic than the Sork. Now the Sork will net you higher results, but this is very effective as well.
Yeah.
So this is a beam plar. It's just a Templar that's going to use a front bar fire staff, and he's going to play all at range, and you build the entire build around the beam and the execute beam. And so here's my build. It's front bar War Maiden. Now, if you don't know War Maiden, that's the one that gives you the highest amount of spell damage in the game, only to magicka damage abilities. The beam happens to be magicka damage, and it gives you 600 spell damage towards it. But that, even though it gives you the spell damage towards your magicka abilities, which means it still scales. So Templars have the added effect where they get major and minor buffs to their spell damage, so you get 30% more. So you're looking at about 800 spell damage from War Maiden, and you'll never see that on your stat sheet. And then I put Deadly on there, And deadly increases your channeled and dot abilities by 15%. Now, the beam is channeled, and 15% is effectively, if you convert it to a penetration system, 6,600 pen is 10% damage. So 15% damage. That's effectively 9,900 pen. Now, it doesn't work the same way, but that's to give your mind the idea of how effective kind of deadly is.
An equivalence.
Yeah, an equivalence. Yeah. Yep. So deadly. Now, I believe those two sets together, and I could be wrong. Maybe somebody out there with an Essence Thief has figured something out better, or maybe something. But I think it's the strongest beam in the whole game. I don't think there's any combo better than those two. If you can put those two. I can
believe it. Yeah, I bet so.
Then he's a one-piece magma for the recovery, and a back bar Potente's Resto Staff for the Resto Heavies to give you some magicka back, because we're building everything into spell damage, because we get that little 10% more. So all his armor is going to be divine. He's going to have the spell damage Mundus Stone. He's going to have magicka recovery, food, and health. And then he's going to be all infused spell damage. Oh, and he uses the Marken Ring of Majesty as his mythic.
You like infuse instead of bloodthirsty.
Yes, infuse instead of bloodthirsty. There's no gimmicks needed to get the execute scaling up like on the Sork. You can
it's ridiculous already.
The beam, the beam just does
it's 100,000 damage when you have the full execute bonus before mitigation, something like that.
Yes, so you'll get the 20k tooltip, and it will increase by 500%. So hopefully my math is right. It's actually 100,000 damage over the beam. So some notable stats I wrote down were when you have all of your body pieces divine, and you have all infused spell damage, and your spell damage is going to top out at about 7,100, maybe 7,200. But that's not counting War Maiden, which gives you another 800, and then all of that is multiplied by 15% in some form of math, maybe not a multiplication.
Yeah, like your 2 5-piece sets aren't even reflected in that.
Right. Both 5, it's going to be 7,100 spell damage, and neither of your sets are going to be reflected in that. But that 7,100 spell damage keeps your heals nice and high. And,
so what do you have, like 12 magicka recovery?
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. Well, I can't think of it right now. I use the health and magicka recovery food, which gives you around just shy of 500 magicka recovery, and then you get the one-piece magma, which will give you a little mag and stam recovery. So
that's not bad.
120. So it's not bad.
And you're doing light armor or medium armor?
So it's going to be 5 medium, 1 heavy, 1 light. And I do that 5 medium because that will give you spell damage. Yeah. And your spell damage scaling is nice on a Templar because we're just jacking spell damage to the moon. And
Templars get that extra 10% that nobody else gets.
And so that's what we're kind of feeding into here to jack the beam up, because in any other direction, you're going to lose out on that extra 10%. So we went with spell damage. And then now there's a funny thing with the combo. If you want to kill someone, you put this build together just how I laid it out. If you want to kill someone, here's the combo. But there's a catch to it. So you use the stamina power of light. You put that on them. Then you use a dark flare. That's the one that shoots the little flare up into the air. And then you throw the javelin at them to stun them right as the dark flare hits. And then you beam them to kill them.
I half expected you to just say beam.
That's what's coming next. Davis,
I was waiting
for
you just to say
combo number 2.
Here's how we're ending it. Here's how we're ending the build. That whole effective combo right there, that might make your effective beam, I don't know, 10-15% better when you're attacking someone. But honestly, a lot of times you don't have the time to set all that up. Truly, the combo is just a beam. That's it.
Throw the beam
it's just a beam. The beam on this build will hit 3k a tick at full health, and I mean that's right now in this tanky meta 3k a tick, and that's on like the average player. Like on a squishier player, you're gonna do way more than 3k a tick. That's not bad just for attacking someone at full health, because that's not a 1 second tick. You do, I forgot how many consecutive ticks over 1.8 seconds.
Yeah, it ticks really fast.
Yeah, so over 2 seconds, or 1.8 seconds, so basically 2 global cooldowns. I believe it ticks 3 times. I could be wrong, but I believe it ticks 3 times, which would make it effectively like 4,500 a second, which is a great spammable. If your spammable is hitting them for 4,500 a second, that's a spammable. And if they happen to dip below 50%,
oh, good luck to them.
It is lights out. And you might as well just hold the beam on them because they're taking so much damage they can't fight back very well. And God help them if they run under 50% health. It's just a slippery slope. They're gonna die, and that's the whole combo is just beam if you want it to.
Just beam them.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a 20k tooltip, I mean 20k over 1.8 seconds for easy math, we'll just call it 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 10k. I mean, just tooltip wise, that's like 10k damage per second. I mean, that's a spammable. That's a typical spammable, about 10k
easily.
damage or so. So. You really could, like I mentioned that earlier, like if you just kind of want to save bar space, just let the beam be your spammable. Just that's it. Like power of the light beam.
I find myself just power of the light beaming, and sometimes I don't even power the light. That one has been so nerfed it barely is even effective. What I really use it for is the minor breach it gives.
Yeah.
But the to line up the stun combo with Dark Flare and Javelin, really not even needed. Like you can just beam if you want to.
And it's a little off topic, but Power of the Light, I've gone ahead and taken it off of my Templar. I've replaced it just with a dot, and I'm getting better results. Yeah, it's not great.
If I wasn't using it for the pen, I wouldn't use it.
The Reflective Light is a good alternative. We'll take a little detour here real quick. Reflective Light's like a Templar sticky dot, and it gives you your major crit buff, and it's actually not a bad dot. And it does like the Fighters Guild Silver Shards. It splits and hits multiple targets. So I liked it because it gives me that crit buff, and I could get rid of Camo Hunter and open up additional bar space. But anyway, getting back on track here. What else about your Beamplar, Stam? Anything else?
Oh, that's it. He's a high elf for the extra spell damage, the extra magic pool, and it gives you a little more sustain as well to your stamina as you're fighting around. I did make him a vampire, so his survivability is pretty good. So if you are getting in trouble, let's say you're beaming, getting all your kills, and somebody sneaks up on you and starts getting you, you can, I swap to my back bar, hit myself a burst heal, and then I go into mist form, and I just start misting away. And I never use an ult on this build. None of the ults are as effective as the beam. Like, not even ultimates are as good as the beam is. So you might as well just save up your vampire ult. So I'll mist away in my mist form, elusive mist, and I'll run back to my team or wherever I need to go. And if they won't get off me, I'll wait till my health gets really
off your what?
low. What? What's that?
They won't get off your what? What were you going to say there?
Won't get off my tuchus. And let's say I'm getting really low health in mist form. Well, I've been saving ult this entire match. I've got 500 ult and a vampire ult ready to go. So as soon as I get low, I'll hit my vampire ult. And the vampire ult is very interesting on this build too. So since we have 7,100 spell damage, the bats, the swarming bats around the vampire ult, they actually hit 5k a second. So if your enemies are standing in that near you in the bats, and then you turn around and beam them, now they're taking 5k a second dot from your bats and your beam that hits like 4,500 a second. There's pretty much no one that can survive that. And if there's too many people on you, you have full resources again, so you can just keep misting away.
That's the most infuriating part, is because you're always just like standing over on some corner or somewhere, like just beaming, and it's like, all right, I'm going to get that guy.
Yep.
You chase him down, you get him into execute range. Oh, he's about toast. You just about have him, and then he's in that vampire form, and now you have to go on the defensive and start retreating because he has all this extra damage now and extra survivability and all that, and it's infuriating. And then it's only a matter of time. You'll run away and you'll lose him, and like finally, all right, I got away from him. Guess what? Beam.
In case anybody had forgotten, Ket is not crazy about this build.
I have a similar, like my own version of the build, and I played with it for a little bit. It's very effective, but I feel like I'm just kind of done forever with it.
Done with the beam.
It's a bad thing. It's not good for society or anything.
But, if you want to easy to play, get a bunch of kills and look good on the scoreboard, you can do it. Nice, dude. Well, speaking of Templars, Davius, you've been playing a very different kind of Templar.
If you want to know the opposite end of Sam's Beamplar, like the very other end of the spectrum, you've got my Magplar healer main, old Davius Starjumper.
Mm-hmm. The original. Got us through many a normal dungeon back in the good old days.
Oh man, yeah. This was
and veteran.
This was a PvE main back in the day.
Yeah.
So I finally Oaken sold him. You know, I know people were worried about it out there.
He's been sold.
No problem. Honestly though, I'd been thinking about it for a while, and he already doesn't do damage. And so I kind of was tinkering around with the thought of throwing Oaken Soul on there, and it really benefited him hugely. Because honestly, the only bar slots, like his entire back bar, was just keeping his own buffs up. And so I really didn't lose a whole lot with the bar space. And he is a lot tankier now and has a lot stronger heals. I did give it kind of go down on his buffs to the team. He doesn't give as much weapon and spell damage, but overall the build's a lot better. Just kind of reminder of the build. It is obviously the Oaken Soul, 5-piece Powerful Assault, 5-piece Spell Power Cure, and then 1-piece Swarm Mothers. The one bar that I have is I just have Honor the Dead, which is my spammable. That's just the main heal I'm throwing people. Echoing Vigor to proc the Powerful Assault. Extended Ritual just for additional heals. Race Against Time, so I can kind of keep up with the team a little bit better. And then I use the Symbiosis ability, which is the Psijic Order ability, where my light attacks actually become heals rather than damage. And then the ult, which I think now with the changes is the best healing ult in the game, is the Practice Incantation. And that is the Templar heal ult, but it's the morph that lets you still move. And that is a unbelievable heal.
It's very good.
And very low ult cost. It only costs 118 ultimate to do that ability. And it's about, the tooltip on that with this build, it's 13k heals per second for 8 seconds. And it's to every single one of your allies. Every single ally is getting 13k heals per second for 8 seconds.
You compare that to the Resto ult, which is also very good, but each tick of the Resto ult is only hitting one person at a time.
Exactly.
Whereas your ult is hitting everyone at the same time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it like I said, I had dropped the weapon and spell damage buff. You know, the whole idea of the build is to be an incredibly strong healer, but since I'm dealing 0 damage, to make sure that my team deals enough extra damage to make up for my 0 damage. And so the amount of damage that I give to the team, it did drop. It used to be 997 weapon and spell damage pre-buff to the team, and now it's 737. So it did go down, but it's still a huge weapon and spell damage buff to the team. And the build is just works so much better now. The build itself is so much tankier, and the heals are so much stronger that it's working a lot better. Because before, while I was giving more weapon and spell damage to the team, I wasn't tanky enough. And so it really, as soon as the opposing team kind of figured out what was going on, they would focus me, and I just didn't have enough to take an entire team's focus. It would just almost be an instant defeat for me. And when I'm dead, I'm not doing anything for the team. And so with this change, I've noticed a lot of the matches we've done, he's back to being tanky enough to where I can have an entire team kind of going after me and kind of focusing me, and I can stay alive long enough that my team with the amplified damage can start finishing off and taking them one off, and the team kind of ends up coming out on top on the fight. So
that Oaken Soul is nice, man. It adds so much survivability.
There's just so much survivability, and just the extra. I think, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the amount of just spell damage that you switch into this new Oaken Soul build, because that was the thing, is that on the last setup, my spell damage was only like 2,500, so my heals really suffered for it. which hurt my sustain because I was having to hit more heals to try to get the heals up. And now the spell damage is, I think it's around 6,000 spell damage. So it drastically jumped up and allowed me to kind of make some changes.
Well, that'll have a huge impact on your survivability.
Exactly. And the really my favorite part about this build, I mean, it's a pretty wacky build. It's definitely a Davius wacky build for sure. But the wackiest part about it is that symbiosis ability. I feel like that's just an ability that just you don't see used. But it works perfect for this build. I've got it, fully buffed up. My light attacks are healing for 4,500. Each light attack is a heal to my team.
You can just light attack weave with your healing abilities, and it's like anti-damage. It's like you're like DPSing, but it's healing.
Yeah, just throw it on my team. I can still heavy attack when I need sustain. If I've got a teammate that's taking a lot, I'll throw heavy attack on there, get my sustain up. And that symbiosis ability that I have the morph that's the symbiosis. The other great part about it, and this goes into the tankiness, is that I actually heal for 58% of the amount my light attacks are healing. So when I'm throwing out those light attacks and heavy attacks, I'm also healing myself at the same time without having to really do anything to focus that. And so just makes the build really tanky. The heals are really, really good. And it's always fun to see the difference of when I play with people and just kind of ask them like, all right, like how much harder were you hitting that? And almost everybody I've played with is like, oh, I can tell a difference when you give me those buffs. Like I can tell a difference to when you're playing with Davius and when Davius is not on the team.
Can definitely tell a difference. Yeah, you're like hitting way, way harder when Davies is around, and it's pretty fun. And you're like kind of unkillable at the same time, so very fun to run around with duos. Like just go grab your like biggest damage character that you have, like your most glass cannon kind of build that you have. Pair it up with this dude, and you're gonna have a blast.
And he's been on the shelf for a while, so I've been really excited to kind of take him and kind of tinker with the build. Still the same idea, but it's just a lot better version of the build. And it's worked out really, really well.
That Oaken Soul is so sweet. Sam, you got to get a hold of High Isle so you can finally get an Oaken Soul build going, man.
I've got so many ideas. Now, Davius, if I can drop a nugget, I know I already kind of told you this one time, but someday I'm going to get you to try out on that specific build.
Yep.
Darok Bray. So Symbiosis, the best set in the game, selfishly, for a Symbiosis build is Darlock Bray, because you get all the benefits of Darlock Bray as long as you're crouching. You don't have to be invisible, you just have to be crouching. And since that Symbiosis never targets the enemy, you never break crouch.
Stay crouched the whole way.
So it will heal you 1,000 heals a second, and it will recover your, I forgot what it is, some ridiculous number. I think it's like 700 magicka and stamina recovery every second. Like it's the most incredible healer build if you use Symbiosis with Darok Bray. Someday, we're going to get you to try it.
One day.
What a weird thing.
I know. I bet you'll only get that nugget of information at the Scrolling podcast.
only from the
UncleSam.
official, only from the official build consultant.
Mm-hmm.
The Scrolling podcast.
Cool. So, Dave, is that all you had about Davius?
He's I don't know. I mean, like I said, if you like a healer, I think the best part about this build is that it is just strictly an amplify the team build. And it is, I highly recommend, if you like a kind of a buff paladin type of play style, like this is kind of that character, the ESO version of that character.
Take credit for 30% of total damage done.
That's right.
By the
That's
team.
the rule. Well, 30% is too high. The rule is you get 3% of everybody else's total kills. You get, not asking for too much. 3% of their total kills, you get credit for this.
That's fair.
Because
you're getting the glory for all the heals and stuff too.
Yeah, we don't want to take too much glory. You just keep it. Keep ourselves humble.
Well, the build that I've been spending a lot of time with the last couple of weeks is Bobby Bobango, my BowCro, my stamina necromancer. This dude has evolved quite a bit. I've been kind of searching for a new setup for him. I tried a bunch of different things, and I think I finally found one that I'm really happy with. It is an Oaken Soul build. This is my first offensive Oaken Soul build.
Love it. I love that you're coming over.
Dude, I love it. I really, really like it. And it's genuinely like the Oaken Soul setup is the superior, like the best version of this build I have come across so far.
You get addicted to those buffs.
You do get spoiled to like not having to recast your buffs and stuff like that. I've been playing other characters at the same time too, so I don't like get too spoiled to that because I can see it's just like everything's ready all the time. It's just like I just push the button that I need when the time is right. You know, you can just like so live in the moment when you have Oaken Soul. So nice. And I was skeptical about like what an offensive Oaken Soul build would be like. Like one bar's not enough. I'm not gonna have all the stuff that I need. But this is actually proven to be a really good build. Like I said, the best version of this build I've tried so far. So the gear setup is 5 pieces Swamp Raider, 5 pieces Morag Tong, the Oaken Soul Ring, and 1 piece Magma Incarnate. So it's all about that poison and disease damage. Swamp Raider gives you 600 weapon spell damage to poison and disease. And Morag Tong, whenever you deal, what was it again? I think when you deal direct damage, you cause the target to take 10% additional poison and disease damage. So I think those two things combined, that's the most poison and disease damage you can have in a build, I'm pretty sure.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And it works really well. If you'll notice, no Wretched Vitality, no Gaze of Sithis.
Whoa.
I've branched out.
So
I know.
Changed everything.
I know. It is possible. But man, I love this build. The damage combo is really simple. It's just Blast Bones, or it consists of Blast Bones, Venom Skull, Magnum Shot, and the Toxic Barrage ultimate. I was really, really back and forth between Venom Skull as my spammable or Lethal Arrow, the poison morph of Snipe. You guys can both back me up. You heard me on Discord time and time and time again, like, which one should I use? Let me try Lethal Arrow again. Well, that's pretty good, but let me try Venom Skull again. Well, that's pretty good too. And it's just back and forth for like 2 weeks straight. I think I really have settled on Venom Skull. Although Lethal Arrow is pretty good.
We'll see. Well, next episode there'll be going to be another update.
No, I think for real, I have settled on Venom Skull. Lethal Arrow is definitely more damage, and when you land that combo, I mean, it's brutal and it really hits hard, and it's a lot more damage. But I find that I very rarely actually land the combo. Like people are just trained; they hear that thwack noise from Snipe and they just dodge, and you might hit them with one snipe, but then that's for sure it. You're not going to hit them with a second one. And one's not going to be enough to kill them. GrizzlyCon says Venom Skull is way cooler. That is also very, very true.
The real reason. Let's get to the real reasons, kid.
I mean, hey, that's definitely a factor, but honestly, even just functionally, I find that with Venom Skull, I'm actually able to land my combo most of the time. You know, even though Lethal Arrow is technically more damage, it's 0 damage if it doesn't hit anybody. Venom Skull, it's poison damage, so both the 5-piece sets apply to it. Every third cast deals 20% more damage, and since it's the stamina morph, Blast Bones counts towards that third cast, so it's really kind of more like every second cast deals 20% more damage. So it's really not bad damage at all, and it's an instant cast. It doesn't have that cast time the way Snipe does. It doesn't have that really obvious audio cue that just like triggers people's lizard brains to just roll dodge automatically. So I really recommend it, and it does look very, very cool. I think using that in combination with Blast Bones, it's very thematic. Feels very Halloween-y. I like it.
And Bobby Bobango is very Halloween-y, if you will.
Yes, it fits his aesthetic in particular for sure. But Lethal Arrow definitely an option. Anyone who likes that instead of Venom Skull, that's totally a valid option. Another option too, if you're facing like a lot of Nightblades, you need an anti-stealth solution. You can get rid of Magnum Shot and put Bombard on its place. That way you still have a CC ability, but it's one that you can use to pull Nightblades out of stealth. That's a good little flex option there. But otherwise, I do prefer having Magnum Shot if I don't need that. Do not sleep on the Toxic Barrage ultimate. This is the bow ultimate, the morph that's like the channeled attack, that like you're stuck in that animation while you're doing it, right? That the fact that you're stuck in that animation has always been a huge turnoff to me. I've always preferred the turret one that I can just cast it and it's going while I'm free to do whatever else I want to do. And that's a good ultimate too, but man, Toxic Barrage is so much damage. For one, this morph deals poison damage, so both the 5-piece sets apply to it. That's a big reason I want to use it. It's also just an astronomical amount of damage. On my character, the tooltip is over 94,000 damage over 4 seconds.
That's almost as good as the beam.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Almost as good as the beam for an ultimate. So that's like 23k DPS, before mitigation or anything else is applied like that. It's just an absolute ton of damage. But the sleeper part of this ultimate is the fact that it applies a secondary like sticky dot to the target. Like once you hit them with it, even after the ultimate is over, there's this 8-second dot. My tooltip is 52,000 damage over 8 seconds. So that's like 6k DPS. That's about like a little bit less than like what the Destro ult would do. It's still very strong. And that's what sneaks up on people. The initial channeled attack, I mean, it's a ton of damage and it'll kill most people, but some people will survive it and they'll kind of breathe this sigh of relief, like, okay, the ultimate's over, I survived it. And sometimes they'll start going on offense at that point and they don't realize they still have this really, really strong dot on them. But at this point, you're out of that channeled attack. You're not stuck in that animation anymore. So you can start throwing your normal combo at them. And that's when they're really in danger. And that's when you'll actually get a lot of people.
I can vouch for that. You've killed me specifically with that in a BG once where I got killed by the dot after not paying attention.
Nasty. Yeah.
Like I had line of sighted you and then I died to the dot.
That's the worst part is you'll line of sight it and you think you're safe. You'll go around the corner and then you're dead and you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yep.
You heard it from UncleSam himself. Cat killed UncleSam one time.
Oh goodness! Here we go.
Here we go.
We have it on record. But yeah, that ultimate is awesome. The channel, the fact that you're stuck in that animation might be kind of a turnoff, but I got over that really quick because it's such a huge amount of damage. You usually will kill people with the channeled attack. If that doesn't kill them, you very likely will kill them within a few seconds after that because that secondary dot that's on them. Also, while you're stuck in that animation, you have full movement speed. So like sometimes what I'll do is, because that channel attack only lasts 4 seconds, and if you do a roll dodge with a bow, you get 4 seconds of major expedition. So you can just like do a roll dodge, then the ultimate, and you have major expedition the entire time. You can stay like right on somebody. Like if they're trying to line of sight you or someone, like they just cannot get away. Of course, I have 3 swift, so I'm just like right there on them. And you can't be CC'd while you're channeling it either. Another good thing. So Toxic Barrage, definitely the way to go. The healing kit is just vigor and resistant flesh. And that's ample. I mean, that's all anybody needs for their healing kit. You cast a vigor and then a resistant flesh, and your health bar is full. You're all good. One really nice thing about resistant flesh is it's my only magicka costing ability. So I have like 20k magicka, and the only thing it's for is just to hammer this really powerful burst heal that I can use on myself or my teammates or whatever. So I really like that. So once I kind of add up all the things I'm giving up by not having a back bar versus all the things I'm getting with the Oaken Soul Ring and all of that, basically what I'm really sacrificing out of this build is I don't have any snare removal and I don't have any anti-stealth unless I flex in Bombard. So that's the solution to the anti-stealth is if I really need it, I can flex that ability in. As far as snare removal, I feel like since I'm a ranged build, I'm not getting snared that often. It's not that much of an issue. Plus, I have lots of movement speed. So if I do get snared, I can mitigate it pretty well. That's really not much of a problem. I really don't feel like I'm giving up. I feel like I'm gaining a lot more than I'm giving up with Oaken Soul, honestly. The damage is really, really good. For being a bow build, you guys have heard me complain a lot of times. It's hard to have good damage as a bow build. It's just hard to find the damage. This is the most I've found for like just kind of a straightforward bow build. It's I'm surprised at how well-rounded it is for being just like a single bar build. You know, he has a powerful offensive combo. He has a totally like adequate defensive kit. He has group support. He has movement speed. And I know it's, you know, it's like something I'm late to the party here, you know, but it's just so mind blowing. It's all in one bar. It's all just right there, ready to go.
We went to Ket's door. We knocked on the door. We handed him the Oakensole pamphlet. He took it. He read it over, and he's been showing up to every meeting since.
Yep.
Sam, you haven't used it yet. Like I can't express to you enough. Like until you actually experience it. Like I never have to cast a buff. They're all active all the time.
Nice.
It's such a beautiful thing.
There is no back bar. And what were you saying, Davies?
Well, one of my favorite things about it is it just, and I mean, obviously I'm getting to the point where every build I use it, but you just throw it on there and it just fills in so many holes for you on the build. Like it gets your weapon and spell damage, it gives that a buff, and you don't have to worry about any of your buffs, which is fantastic. And there's just so many of these minor buffs that you usually don't have on a build that it just throws on there for you. You just kind of get spoiled to it where you're like, oh, I have minor mending now. I have minor heroism. I have minor berserk at all times.
Yeah, minor force.
Minor force. I've got that at all times now. You get so spoiled to it. It's such a great mythic.
I want to use it. And Grizzly Khan in the chat just found out it's only $13.19 right now on sale.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I know. I'm thinking about pulling the trigger.
We knock on his door, get him a pamphlet.
But I really like how it's such a complete and well-rounded build, just all right there on one bar. You know, like I can be attacking someone 1 second, heal a teammate, go right back to attacking someone, and I don't miss a beat. You know, there's like not a moment's hesitation from one action to the next because, you know, everything's ready to go all the time. So I have kind of started kind of playing with a bit of a supportive mindset. Like Davis, we've talked about this concept of a support brawler in the past, where you're a damage focused build, but you're playing with a supportive mindset. I'm thinking of this dude as a support archer kind of guy.
All right.
So he's like hanging back, you know, he's providing suppressive fire with those long range attacks. He's tossing heals to teammates when they need it, and he's using that long range perspective to like maintain a good kind of perspective of the situation, maintain good situational awareness. He uses that mobility to keep good positioning and all of that stuff. Kind of like what I was talking about with my Templar, how I'm trying to just do whatever the team needs from one moment to the next. And Oakensole just makes that so easy because it's all just right there. Like it just makes the mental processing factor so much snappier. You can there's no hesitation whatsoever.
Yeah.
How is the movement? Do you wear any Swift?
3 Swift, and he's a wood elf, and he has a bow, so he's very fast.
He's quick,
speedy, very speedy.
Medium armor. He's totally speed capped.
It's I mean, just wait, Sam. It's concerning how addicted you will get to not having to worry about buffs anymore.
I know. It seems like the better way to play.
It's fun. I know that I couldn't do it on every build. Like I did kind of theoretically in the build editor try to put an Oakensole version of my Templar together, and it's just like, nah, there's no way. It's a totally different kind of build now. I couldn't possibly do it. So there's no I don't think I'm in any danger of it taking over my entire roster like some people.
Some people out there, I've heard about those people. I've heard of those people.
Like some Nord enthusiasts I know. But yeah, it's a really great build. It's easy to play. It's super fun. It gets really good results. One more time, it was 5-piece Swamp Raider, 5-piece Morog Tong, Oakensole, 1-piece Magma. Let's see. Other than that, those are all the builds we have to talk about. You can look forward to in the next episode. I'm probably going to be talking about some Stamina Templar again. Even though I just talked about her not that long ago, there's been some developments. and also have some stam DK action as well. I have a really cool DK build I've been playing around with. So we'll talk about that next time. Also want to give everyone a quick public service announcement. I'm sure most people listening are already well aware, but I'm a little late to the party on this one with the Order's Wrath set. It's a crafted set from High Isle. Quick reminder, it gives you a line of crit chance, a line of weapon and spell damage, another line of crit chance, and the 5-piece gives you 943 crit chance, and it increases your critical damage and critical healing by 8%. So I'm bringing this up because if you're not aware, this is the new Mother's Sorrow. Get rid of your Mother's Sorrow, put this in its place, and it's going to be a better build, probably for the most part. And what's really nice is this is, I think, a 3-trait crafted set. You can craft it in any weight, any trait. Basically, anybody can get their hands on it. You're not going to have to pay exorbitant amounts of gold to get a hold of it. Real quick comparison to Mother Sorrow. Mother Sorrow, basically, when you add the whole set up, it's basically giving you 13% crit chance, and then like an extra line of Max Magica. It's basically what that whole set is giving you. Order's Wrath is 10% crit chance, but then a line of weapon and spell damage instead of Max Magica, and then it's increasing all your crit damage and heals by 8%. So basically, 3% less crit chance that you're getting from Order's Wrath, but you're getting that weapon and spell damage and the 8% crit damage and heals. Definitely coming out ahead there. So for like my PvE Magblade, he uses Mother Sorrow and Zogvin's Warband. This is going to take the place of Mother Sorrow, and I think that's going to be good. I haven't done it yet, but that's the plan. You guys eyeballed this set at all? Have any thoughts about using it?
I love the set, and I would, if I was using Race Against Time on my Nightblade, I would actually swap this onto my PvP Nightblade as well. It's not only like one of the best versatile PvE sets, but it's just as good in PvP.
Oh yeah, I could see it being great on a Nightblade. Yeah. I can see it being good on a Templar too, like a Khajiit Templar. Would not be bad.
Excellent set.
Yeah, we kind of glossed over it when it first popped up. We're like, yeah, it seems solid anyway, and kind of moved on. But it's actually like one of the most solid sets we have now. And to have something that sort of dethrones Mother's Sorrow as kind of a staple PvE set, that's kind of an event in this game, I would think.
Been a while.
Agreed. Yeah, I would say it's not maybe the single most damage set in the game for any specific scenario, but I would say it's probably the most damage in the game for all scenarios.
Yeah, like just, especially for PvE, I would think like hard to go wrong putting that on just about any build.
Well, and so easy to get. Three trait, craftable. You can put it,
whatever weight. Yeah.
Let me double check. Yeah, so Order's Wrath. I'm going to double check the traits. I think it was 3. Yeah, 3. So yeah, easy. I mean, you can't craft it yourself. You can pester somebody in your guild, or someone will do it. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about that you've been up to in game before we close this mother out? I guess not. Emails and shout outs. No emails this week, but shout out to the chat. We have Dr. Professor Grizzly Khan, Wilhelm, Skooma was in here earlier. Is that everybody? Thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. Ask us any questions, make any suggestions for the show, tell us a joke, say hello, anything you want. scrollandpodcast@gmail.com. We have a guild. The guild's name is Stoon's Goons. Davius?
Best named guild. Best
there
one
it
out
is.
there.
Best named guild on the server. Everyone knows it's true. And it's also the official guild of the Scrollin' Podcast. If you'd like to be a member of Stoon's Goons, send us an email at scrollandpodcast@gmail.com and we'll send you an invite. If your guild roster is full, or if you just don't care about guilds in game and Discord's more your thing, then come join our Discord and we'll get you in there. And that's really where most of the action's happening anyway. That's where everybody's talking and hanging out and all that stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't know about Davius, but as far as I'm concerned, anyone who's in the Discord is a fully fledged goon. So scrollingpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you in there.
Just, next time you're in the game, just throw it out there in zone chat. What's the best name guild? You'll get the answer.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I often have people come up to me and are like, hey, have you heard about that really awesomely named guild?
You know what they're talking about. You know what guild they're talking about.
The other person always follows it up with, oh yeah, that's the best named guild I've heard in the Elder Scrolls Online.
Best named guild in the Elder Scrolls Online.
Seems pretty commonplace.
Sure is a good name.
Yeah,
sure is a good one.
I love this, the being the hyper specific on that detail. Anyway, I thought we should mention it's our 90th episode. Not quite to 100 yet, but 90's a lot.
Yeah, that's high. That's still good.
Yeah, that's A minus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've hit the A's.
We'll probably have a little bit more of a retrospective on episode 100. That'll be like 20 weeks from now. But, people listening, thanks for following us this far. As far as people that are in the chat right now, I think Grizzly Khan is the one that goes back the farthest. Grizzly, did you get on episode number 1, or when did you jump on? It was before. It was within the first 10. I know.
We got at some point we got to look up the first episode that had the shout out Grizzly Khan.
Yes, we got to figure that out. Grizzly may have it tattooed on his back or something. Episode 8. He already knows.
He knew it. Dr.
Professor got in 15.
Professor, episode 15.
Ah, very nice. Dr. P, 15, I think, is when we kind of found our groove. That's a good time to start.
So Grizzly Khan probably saw some things in the beginning.
Oh, he saw some things. Yeah. He saw some things he can't unsee.
Yeah.
Poor audio production is what he saw. Thanks for hanging with us for 90 episodes, guys. Grizzly says shout-outs didn't start until around 15, I think. You're probably right. That sounds about right.
90 episodes.
That's when I started kind of putting thought into things.
Started thinking about what was happening.
Yeah. I guess there are some people listening to this thing. If we should put some structure to it or something.
Oh man, that's good.
Uncle Sam, thank you so much for being here again, dude. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll see you again in about a year when we do the next BG report. Davius, anything else?
I think that's it.
Sam, anything to plug before we go?
I got nothing.
Okay. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
So anyway, we have a list of 10, 11 if you count werewolves.
Whoa. Sam's gone right now too.
No, I just got there.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Hey.
Oh, wow. Whoa,
right.
yeah.
Ah!